To truly understand an election, any election, you must first understand the land and the people who live on it. Today, we're going deep into the Sonai constituency in Assam. It's a place where politics flows with the same complexity as the Barak River that shapes life in the valley. We're here to deconstruct the mandate, to look past the headlines and see what the data really tells us about the path to governance. You see, Sonai isn't just a constituency on a map. It's a living, breathing community. To understand its politics, you have to understand the daily lives of its people, their hopes for their children, their anxieties about the future. Their relationship with the land and the water is everything. This is where the story of any election really begins. And in Sonai, that conversation isn't about abstract ideologies. Not really. It's about fundamental needs. It's a conversation about survival, about security, about identity. These are the deep currents that move voters, the things that matter when that curtain closes in the voting booth. Now let's put some hard numbers on those feelings. This is what the voters themselves are saying. Look at the intensity here. At the very top, with a massive 9 out of 10, is the economy. We're talking about jobs, the price of essentials, the daily struggle to make ends meet. Right behind it, an 8 out of 10 for citizenship, security, a deep, persistent anxiety. And then a 7 for flood relief, a constant yearly battle with nature. This isn't just data, this is the pulse of the people. So the big question is, how do these intense grievances, this pulse, translate into votes? How did it shape the outcome? Let's decode the verdict from the last election in 2021, because the numbers, well, they tell a fascinating story. Here it is. First, notice the turnout, nearly 80%. That tells you people were highly motivated. And you can see a decisive victory for the AIUDF, capturing almost half the vote. The BJP held onto its core base a solid 35%. But the real headline here, the number that changes the entire equation, is that big 0 next to the Indian National Congress. They weren't even in the fight, and that absence created a very unique political dynamic. And look at the result of that dynamic. The winning margin was almost 20,000 votes. Now, in politics, that is not a narrow win. That's a clear, decisive statement from the electorate. A margin that large signals a major shift was happening on the ground. It forces us to ask the most important question: what precisely caused it? Well, the outcome wasn't some kind of accident, and it wasn't just about one party's popularity. The data points us to a much more structural reason: the creation of a strategic vacuum. When a major political alternative simply disappears from the field, it changes everything. And here's the crucial mechanic of how it worked. The absence of a major third player didn't splinter the opposition vote. It did the exact opposite. It unified it. Think about it from a voter's perspective. If you are determined to vote against the incumbent party, and one of your main choices vanishes, you don't just stay home. You rally behind the strongest remaining challenger. The anti-BJP vote had nowhere else to go, so it consolidated, and the AIUDF became the sole beneficiary. So that begs the question, right? Was this 2021 election a unique event, a perfect storm, or is there a deeper pattern at play here? To answer that, we have to look back. We have to examine the political memory of this constituency. And when you look back over the last 3 decades, a crystal clear pattern emerges. The story of who wins in Sonai is almost always the story of who best navigates the fractures in their opposition. Victory is a function of consolidation versus division. It's a recurring theme. This table just lays it all out, plain as day. Look at the cycle. After early wins for the BJP and regional parties, look at 2011. The INC pulls off a massive consolidation, securing over 61% of the vote, an incredible victory. But just 5 years later, in 2016, that vote splits 3 ways, and the BJP comes right back to power. Then, in 2021, the INC disappears, that vote consolidates once again, and this time the AIUDF rises. It's a political seesaw pushed and pulled by these forces of splits and unity. This, right here, is the core lesson. This quote from the analysis says it all. Winning in Sonai is not just about having the most popular message. It's about political engineering. It's about ensuring your vote is united while your opponent's is divided. Now, this dynamic of division versus unity touches on something fundamental. Our constitutional framework is built on the idea of human dignity. It calls for public speech that is informed and responsible, that seeks to unite, not to permanently divide people for political gain. It's a value worth remembering as we look at these patterns. So if we understand this history, if we know the key voter grievances and we see the pattern of consolidation, what can be done? How does a party actually forge a path to victory? Well, the analysis doesn't just diagnose the problem, it lays out a detailed, actionable blueprint. It's called the Chattermukha, or four-faced doctrine, and it's a comprehensive strategy. First, the electoral face. Position yourself as the only credible alternative, filling that vacuum we talked about. Second, the organizational face. You have to rebuild from the grassroots up, booth by booth. Third, the narrative. Craft a new story, one that moves past polarization and speaks directly to those core needs of development and dignity. And fourth, resources. Be smart, be targeted. Focus your money where it has the most impact. And this isn't just a theory, it's put on a clock. A 90-day ladder to victory. It starts 3 months out, not with speeches, but with mobilizing your workers and building alliances. At 60 days, you launch a massive outreach blitz to connect with voters. At 30 days, you begin the high-visibility campaign. And in those final crucial 10 days, the entire machine has only one job: get out the vote. Every step builds on the last. But the analysis makes a very crucial point here, one that often gets lost in the heat of a campaign. Winning the election. That's not the finish line, that's the starting line. The real purpose, the entire point of this exercise, is to earn the right to govern effectively for every single person in the constituency. And to do that, the messenger matters as much as the message. The strategy requires a very specific type of leader, a Vichar Poshak, a thought leader. Someone respected locally, perhaps a doctor or a lawyer, with a clean, common person image. They must be a uniter, not a divider. This kind of leadership is about building trust. And in our modern democracy, that trust also extends to how a leader handles people's information. It means respecting their privacy and consent, as outlined in frameworks like India's DPDP Act, ensuring that engagement is always built on a foundation of mutual respect. And so this brings us back to the central challenge, the fundamental question for Sonai. The data shows a clear, logical path forward, but executing it demands a shift away from the cycles of polarization that have defined this region's politics for so long. Can a strategy built on unity, on grassroots organizing, and on the simple, powerful idea of dignity, can it truly change the pattern? The answer to that question will not just decide the next election, it will shape the future of the Valley. If you want to become a people-centric leader and uplift your constituency, get in touch with blueprintstrategies.ai at mgr@blueprintstrategies.ai or call 080-420-41602. Purpose beyond politics.